Greetings, this is Matt Faiello, Technical Marketing Engineer with the Cisco Cloud Networking Compute BU, and we're back with another Intersight Managed Mode Expert Series video. A prior video, we talked about organizations and resource groups. Now we're going to expand upon that and talk about an exciting capability called organizational sharing in Intersight Managed Mode, where you can connect a shared org with resources in that shared org to destination target orgs and reuse policies, reuse pools, as opposed to creating disparate separate ones and having policy sprawl. So we're going to introduce the capability with a few slides and then finish up with a demonstration. Okay, in talking about shared organizations, it really addresses the problem of what I call policy sprawl in a large infrastructure. So you have multiple organizations, A, B, C, D, E, and each of those organizations have certain policies that are exactly the same, but I had to create them multiple times. And if I go make change, I have to edit them multiple times. Well, now we can have another adjacent organization that can be shared with those existing target organizations. I can have the policy persist there. I can have it instantiated a single time, okay, and then simply consumed by the target organizations. That way, I create a policy once, and if I need to edit or make change to the policy, I go to one place and make that change. So it really reduces the overall OpEx of maintaining a large infrastructure. And of course, those capabilities kind of existed with UCS Manager, UCS Central certainly, where you had org resolution. And of course, that also is something that's addressed and compensated here with Intersight Managed Mode as far as the shared org capabilities, right? So we're really, filling that gap with IMM and doing it in a very elegant way. Okay, so I wanted to include a slide that talked about the scalability limits currently for organizations, shared organizations. Of course, you can have a maximum of 50 organizations in a Intersight account. Okay, the max number of organizations can be added to a particular role currently is 5. The max sharing rules between a shared org and any adjacent target destination orgs is 200. The max resource groups that can be added to an organization is 10. The max resource groups in an Intersight account is 100. Max resources, like servers, that can be in a resource group is 5,000. And yes, with the advent of shared organizations and also the future enhanced RBAC model that we're going to have for Intersight, we are looking at increasing these scalability limits. If you have any comments on that, please get in touch with me or your account team. I'd really like some feedback. Okay, so let's look at some examples. So if you have a source organization, okay, you can share that single source organization with up to 49 consumer or target organizations. And that would give us our 1 plus 49, our 50 organizations per Intersight account. Probably another more realistic example is, let's say we have 4 source or shared orgs with 46 adjacent target orgs. That is 4 plus 46 will give us our 50 total orgs per account, but 4 times 46 would give us 184 sharing rules, which is well within the 200 limit that currently exists. Okay, so an organization with a resource group or with a hardware attached resource group, okay, cannot be shared. You can't turn that org into a shared org, but you can create a net new organization without a resource group and share that. Okay, so that should not be really a limitation for anybody. Port policies and embedded policies must today in phase 1 be in the same org. We can't do the cross share target org, the cross boundary capabilities there with port policies yet. That's to come. We're going to enhance this and be able to support that in the future. And of course, when you share out a source org, a shared org to its destination or target orgs, that target org, the user of that target org, must have at least read access into the shared org, or else you're not going to be able to see the resources that have been placed there to consume, to share. All right, so here's a graphic of what we're talking about. A picture's worth 1,000 words. So here we have consumer org A, B, and C. Okay, and those are just maybe started off as standalone orgs. But now we have a source org, a shared org up top. And that's really where I want to put my ID pools, perhaps my policies, my templates. And then once I've done so, I can and establish the corresponding sharing rules. I can then derive and attach the profiles down to the target orgs. So this is a very simple model on how you might want to set up things in your IMM architecture. Obviously, this is highly centralized control. So you're putting your whole advanced administrator stuff up here in the creation of things, and then a lesser administrator down at the consumer level, okay, that's actually consuming what has been created. Okay, so here's another example of how we're using shared orgs. So this time I have two orgs that are shared, and I have them basically segmented based on discipline. So I got a domain policy source org, and then I have a server policy source org. So I might have my domain admin administering the domain policies, the domain profile, whereas I have my server admin, senior server admin, create and dictate the server policies, server profile templates, etc. And then, of course, they can be correspondingly consumed down to the consumer orgs, okay, which have their own UCS domains as part of their resource groups, right? So just another idea. There really is no best practice for this. It is about what you can do to make things efficient and make sense to you and your organization. And I'm more than happy to get online with a customer at any time, okay, and help you talk through and decide maybe what's best for your organization. I did that for years with advanced services when I was in the field, and I offer that up to any customer. Okay, so for our demonstration here, let me give you kind of a lay of the land of my small environment here for this shared org demonstration. So I'm in my Intersight account. I am an account administrator, so I have full control and permissions role-wise. And I'm in my system settings, and I'm down here in organizations, and you can see I have a couple orgs here. Just focus on the T org A, T org B, according to our scenario. T for target. But these orgs right now are standalone orgs. So you can see as I go inside of them, they've got their own pools and policies and templates associated with them. Okay, so that's T org A, T org B, same here. Okay, so let's go take a look at what that might look like from an infrastructure service perspective. Let's go into policies. And I've created custom views. So T org A has all their policies here. And then T org B, their corresponding policies. But some of these policies are exactly the same, like a firmware policy. Okay. If I look at this firmware policy, it's got the same server model. It's got the same firmware version between T org A and T org B. Yet I had to create two separate policies because up until the point of having shared orgs, you had to create everything in silos within as an organizational structure. So not a big deal if you're dealing with two or three orgs, not a big deal at all. But what if you have a half dozen orgs? What if you have a dozen, 20, 50 orgs? I don't want to have to create the same policy over and over and over for each and every org. And you carry that out across multiple policies that are likely the same. That's a lot of work. And also, what about like the firmware policy? It's not going to stay forever the same. You're going to update that firmware policy as new firmware, server firmware bundles are made available for the BIOS and et cetera, right? So not only do I have to create that policy initially X number of times, but then I got to go in and edit each and every one. So you can easily and quickly understand the convenience from an OpEx perspective of shared orgs. In our scenario, we're only working with two, so that's what we're going to use, but think on a bigger scale than two. All right, so let's go back to System and go to Organizations, and let's create an org. Okay, so this is going to be our shared org, sh-org. And here is the checkbox that you check to delineate that you want to share this org with other organizations. Click Next. And now I simply choose what other organizations I want to share with. So I'm going to share with T-Org A and T-Org B. Click Next and click Create. All right, now I'm going to pop over to Infrastructure Service and I'm going to go to Policies. And as a quick and easy example, I'm going to create a firmware policy and I'm going to create that in shared org, the shared org that we just created that is indeed shared, right? So let's call this share firmware policy and it's for FI attached. Click Next. All right, let's pick our same exact server model, X210 Charlie M7. I'm going to pick the exact same firmware that I had in the respective target org firmware policies and click Create. All right. Now I've already had an access to the respective shared orgs from a server admin perspective. Okay, so I have server admin for T-Org A, server admin for T-Org B, right? So let's quickly change the account or role and go to that. All right, so there's T-Org A, server admin. Okay, and what I really want to start doing now, since I now have a shared org, I'm going to go to that server profile template. I'm going to edit that and click Next. And here's that target org specific siloed firmware policy. Well, I really want to start leveraging the firmware policy that we just created in the shared org. So let's select that policy. I'm not seeing that newly created shared policy. Okay, let me put that back. And the reason for that, and I knew this in advance, but I'm trying to drive the point home, you have to give this org and the user of this org here in T-Org A read access to the shared org. And we didn't do that when we created the shared org. Okay, the same is true for T-Org B. I could log in and show the exact same thing. I don't have access. I can't read anything from the shared org. So let's close this and let's go back to our superpowers here. Switch account back to account admin. Okay, and let's go to system and let's go to roles. All right, so there's my server admin roles for T-Org A, right? So let me edit that and click next. All right, but I need to add another role here. I need to add in for shared org A, I got to give them at least read access. Okay, and I need to do the same for T-Org B. There's my shared org, read only. Okay, so now let's go ahead and switch back to the target orgs, to org A. Let's switch to infrastructure service. Let's go to templates, server profile templates. Now let's edit this guy. Click next. And for that firmware policy, we're going to detach the target org firmware policy. And let's select, now we're seeing the shared policy here that we did not see before, but we gave this org user read access to the shared org. Okay, and now we can simply start consuming that shared policy. Okay, I can do the same for my other target org. Let's go to templates, server profile templates. Let's edit that template. I'm taking away the siloed org B firmware policy, and now I'm going to access the shared firmware policy. Okay, so that really kind of drives home the point in a very simplistic way. Okay, I chose a policy that's likely very common amongst however many orgs that you have, considering it's not that you're going to be completely homogeneous with your server PIDs. Okay, it's nice if you are, but I can add up to 6 different PID and firmware combinations in a given firmware policy. Okay, that pretty much would cover the plethora of any different server models I have. So it's very likely that I could use the same exact firmware policy from end to end across my entire environment. So therefore, I'd rather create the policy once. I'd rather consume it by many target orgs, and then if I need to edit the policy, I go to one place and make one edit on a policy versus going to the disparate orgs. That's the point. It's all about introducing efficiency, okay, and reducing OpEx. It's not about making things complicated, okay. But I will say, try to keep things as simple as you can, but achieve your organizational goals. Okay, you need segmentation. You have orgs for a reason. Now you've got many orgs. Okay, for whatever reason that you have. Okay, leverage the shared org model so that you can start consuming efficient resource from a policy pool perspective, as opposed to having policy sprawl. I hope I was able to communicate that with you in that in this time here, and that completes our demonstration. Hey everyone, thanks again for hanging with me on the demonstration. Just as an added bonus here, there is an org sharing and policy cloning white paper that I created out there. So go ahead and feel free to scan the QR code here to go to that white paper. The URL that you see here I'll also post in the comments section. And that completes our video today about organizational sharing in Intersight Managed Mode. I hope you were able to learn a few things from this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Reach out to your account team. We'd like to help. And stay tuned for more Intersight Managed Mode Expert Series videos. Thank you.